Covering conflict as a reporter is a critical part of making sure that the world knows what is happening on the ground. It's also dangerous. The Committee to Protect Journalists investigates all reports of journalists killed or injured in war, and we know of at least 19 journalists who have died in the Israel-Gaza war. Our next guest, Jayyub Abusafia, is a Palestinian-British journalist who was forced to evacuate Gaza last week on the advice of the British Foreign Office. He is now in Amman. He's joining us for more on the situation in Jordan. Good morning. Nice to meet you.
Good morning. Nice to meet you.
You are now in Jordan after being forced to leave the West Bank a few days ago. You told our producer that you are supporting your cousins after they lost their father in an Israeli airstrike on their family home in Gaza last week. What's the situation, first of all, where you are?
Well, I've been here since last week, as you mentioned, and supporting my cousins who their father is Amman-based, and he went to visit the rest of the family in Gaza 3 days before this war started, and he was in his family home when a bomb landed next to the house next to him, and he died. And we're talking about 3 or 4 of his sons are now in Amman. One is already based here, so we have to bring the rest and try to support them while we're hearing more cousins and more family members as well. The total is 5 of my extended family were murdered and killed in this horrific Israeli attack to civilian areas. They were not part of any political or military group in Gaza. This bombing and shelling, it's been just hitting so hard many families. Lots of families being wiped out. Neighborhoods, parts of cities, especially in the north of Gaza, where my family come from, and we had to. I have to ask them and to arrange for them to move to South Gaza to stay in a safe place. So we're monitoring, watching the news 24/7, hoping that my phone wouldn't ring to bring some bad news or more bad news, especially from my family or family members. I've lost many friends, and as you mentioned, 19 journalists, colleagues of mine, were killed as well in a random bombing in their buildings or their live positions, trying to report the facts on the ground in Gaza. And the situation is really getting bad and worse. Lots of people, they're fleeing North Gaza to the south, and it's still not safe. Even the Israelis are saying that you need to move to the south of Gaza, where it's a safe passage, but it's been hit a few times, and more than 200 people were killed just fleeing for their life.
Jayyub, first of all, 5 members of your family being lost in this conflict so far. I'm sorry, that is a devastating loss. You mentioned that you have family and friends who are leaving the north, as was the advice to head down south. What are you learning from them?
Well, it's very hard to communicate. So if I just managed to speak to them, and they told me that it's quite hard. It's quite tough. It's not safe even, though the Israeli army is mentioning they safe passages to go from north to the south, but it's still being hit and people being killed while fleeing for their life. Situation is very bad. There is a lack of food. Of course, electricity, water is being cut by the Israelis as a result of the Hamas attack on the 7th of October. But this is something, again, it's a punishment for the whole of people of Gaza. 2.2 million people now living, the rest of them left living without water, electricity, energy, or food at the moment. You did mention that 20 trucks being agreed by the Americans to enter through Egypt, but this is nothing. This is not what the Palestinian people want. They want a ceasefire immediately to try to at least to recover 1,300 bodies or people missing under the rebels in Gaza City. Now, I just heard now a press conference from the health officials in Gaza mentioning 3,800 people being killed. 60% or more are kids. They're not more than 10 years old, under 10 years old, killed, murdered, and a whole family of father, mother, kids being wiped out.
Jayyub, it is heartbreaking news. I want to thank you for joining us today. This story is far from over. We'll continue to check in with you, particularly about where Palestinians go from here. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.